Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth and Ranty Flat Earth. How are you both doing?
Doing good. Yourself?
Beep beep.
Yourself, Nathan, how are you doing today?
Not bad. Been joined by Sleeping Warrior as well. How are you doing, Anthony?
Hola.
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 So, anybody found any evidence of curve?
No.
Wow,
no,
you are a real person, Anthony.
Of course. What, was there ever any doubt?
No, I just never seen you yet.
Oh, come on, I'm always on camera. Maybe not on this show. Nathan hides me. It's a bit like Frankenstein. Doesn't want me released in the public.
Don't know, it's me that gets described as the monster at the moment.
Yeah.
You do realise the show's for children, though, don't you, as well?
It's full of kids, this estate.
Yeah.
Full of kids.
Don't know about
Yeah,
that.
but can't have you scaring them, though.
Well, so but there's no evidence of curve. What about axial rotation?
Negative.
None. What about
None.
gravity?
What's that?
What about pressure density, or what they call pressure density, but we're all calling it a density gradient existing in next to a vacuum without a membrane?
No, there is no examples of pressurized systems next to vacuums. I was thinking about this actually. The term PSI, so pounds per square inch, right? So
yeah,
per square inch of what? Oh, the container. Oh, okay. So if you're going to have a PSI value, you need a container.
Yeah, you do. What was the last one? Molten iron core evidence of the self-perpetuating nature of this that creates our magnetic field. Any evidence of that?
Paul Voigt is still outstanding. He's claimed to have evidence of it, but it hasn't returned since then. It's amazing.
It's not doing too good, is it? I mean, there's quite a lot of things that these ballers claim, and the evidence when it comes to it, push comes to shove, there's not that much of it really, is there?
Yeah, same goes for R. Childs is outstanding. Apparently he has scientific evidence of R, but is withholding it based on a conditional acceptance. So, that's a shame.
Well. What's the title of the debate about, anyway?
Eddie Bravo shout out. Yeah, so yesterday I got a few messages from people saying Eddie Bravo sent me, and I didn't know what that meant, so I just ignored it. And then after about the third or fourth message with Eddie Bravo sent me, somebody sent a full message that had some context that said something along the lines of Eddie Bravo sent out a tweet saying, go and subscribe to this channel, brilliant channel, or something along those lines. So I woke up and I think I'd gained about 70 or 80 more subscribers. So it tends to be at the moment I'm getting about 100 subscribers a week. And last time I checked or thanked the latest 100 people for joining was on Sunday. So it's now Friday. And I've gained 150 subs in that time. It's like, wow, woke up to a whole load more subs. Brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome to all.
Wow, sensational.
Oh,
if you get him on the debate now, that would be awesome.
Oh, I hate that. You give someone a shout out and then they immediately expect you to come on their bloody show. So no obligations. All are welcome. If you wanted to join, I'm sure he'd click the link.
But you know who will be happy to come and show you their findings? I was speaking to him yesterday. D Marble.
Oh, about the 24-hour sun. Yes, indeed. We were talking about this.
Sun, yeah.
Yeah,
he's,
cool.
He's up there and he has filmed the 24-hour sun. He's also taken images. I think he's taken images every 10 seconds, I believe. as well. So he's doing a full 24-hour of that today. And he also had people in Australia, Britain, and obviously where he is at the moment. And they were all showing the sun in the sky at the same time. So he's cracking on.
I just came across Mr. Thrive and Survive.
Absolutely. I think maybe next Thursday sometime. We had no idea what you just said, the plain truth.
He said something about Mr. Thrive and Survive. It sounded like he was falling down a cave.
He's still doing it now.
Sorry.
No, not at all, but we'll let you know when you are, mate.
Plain truth, if you can hear us, dude, you sound terrible at the minute. You're obviously not in a signal area.
Keep on trucking.
Honk, honk.
So yeah, we got a bit distracted yesterday because we went on to Cavendish, which, not annoyed, that's probably the wrong word, but John got a bit perturbed by it because he'd just literally covered the subject about a fortnight earlier in a proper presentation about exactly that, gravity and air pressure density gradients, if I could wrap my tongue around it. And yeah, so he did a show last night. I'm sure you guys hopefully tuned into at least some of it and saw that. But it wasn't new news, you know, it's covering something that one of the participants had us go through it, and he's still in the comments now, Milo, my bad. Milo saying, oh, well, you know, having a pressure gradient system proves that it's gravity and that we don't have a lid. And it's like, you've got the word pressure in there, you know, PSI. You've got to have it acting on something. It's how much pressure is acting on a square inch of something else, not a square inch of nothing in space. But that side, we've kind of, you know, gone from holding people to account for their perspective ignorance to talking about Cavendish. Well, great, I love talking about Cavendish, it's nonsense and great to expose that. But we still have quite a lot of globeheads outstanding that have made errors in their assertions when challenging flat earthers with their photography, based on the fact that they've compared photography to an orthographic calculation, and they've all got it wrong. So we're still outstanding quite a lot of concessions from these people. Would you not agree?
Yeah, just with regards to Milo and anybody else that thinks we're on the this pressurized system, look up the difference between a pressurized system and a density gradient, and then tell us what the difference is, and then why it's the pressure gradient in our atmosphere as opposed to the density gradient in our atmosphere, because the definitions for the two of them is quite similar but also uniquely different. And it's clear that we have a density gradient in our atmosphere. But that's a good point. Milo, if you're out there watching, go and work out the difference between both and then come back and tell us why we have a pressure, not a density. Because I'll assert to you that we have a density gradient, and I'd like you to tell me why I'm wrong. With regard to all the others, I think there has been conversation, but I've not seen any of it because for the last 3 days I've been in the garden pulling trees out and bushes and shrubs and all these nasty things that have got like horse flies that are like literally eating me alive. You know, these things that like suck on you and like they leave like this big massive bump of hot itchiness. Horseflies are nightmares, but I've got rid of a shed load of bushes and stuff and out the garden, and I've just not had time to do anything other than chat on this hangout. So I think there is a response, but I don't know what the response is, and I'm certainly not going to sit back and watch 3 hours of a hangout when it can be condensed into a 10-second conversation. But we just need to know what their other argument is.
Indeed. Well, they're all welcome to come and challenge whatever we say. However, it's not necessary for them to be here. I pointed this out in a comment to you.
Tell you what I'll do, Nath. If you share my screen for a sec.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with not that one. Yeah, that one. Having a conversation offline with GeoStreamer. And basically I asked him, because basically Sean had a hangout based on another tangent that was another misrepresentation of fact. That was not what I said. It was not my point yet. They had 3 hours on this and then all held each other's willies as they claimed a victory over me on a point that wasn't made, which by definition is a straw man. I said to GeoStreamer, right, what I want you to do, so that I know that you guys understand my position, right? So that we all understand that my position is being correctly interpreted by you morons. I want you to demonstrate it as my point, show my point. And all I want you to do is get onto GeoGebra, because this is what he uses. I said, and put on the mountain at 1,000 feet, and then put it moving further away from the observer and shrinking over distance. So although it's side on, it's shrinking over distance according to the rules of perspective. I don't care what math you use. It doesn't matter what math you use, and I don't care if it's accurate or not. I just want to see that target shrinking over distance, because that's what the observer sees. Obviously, if we're on a flat plane, really straightforward. If I can flick out to that one. Come on, get off this. If we're on a flat plane, all we have is this. To the observer, the mountain shrinks over distance. But obviously, if we live on, and that's it, it doesn't go any further than that. But if we live on a sphere, to the observer, the mountain will not just shrink as a result of the distance, it starts tipping away. Now, you need to only do, 30 miles to get half a degree. But when you've got like 1,000-foot mountain, that half a degree, the mountain starts tipping back, because that half a degree is quite a lot to the tip of the mountain. It's not a lot relative to the 1 degree that we're talking about, but relative to the tip of the mountain, it starts tipping away. And half a degree, it does make a difference. It does start bringing these things down, but you have the mountain tipping away. It gets smaller as it goes further away. It tips away as it goes further away. It gets there's a bulge between the observer and it, which will be this bit here in the middle, which sits halfway between the target and it. And then if he manages to represent my position properly, that's all he's got to do, I want him to explain why it's wrong. I'm going to drop on mute a sec, but that's where I'm at anyway.
Yeah, I think they do understand exactly what you're trying to tell them and what we've been banging on about. But the purpose, their purpose is to ignore that and obfuscate the question and the proofs over and over, because it destroys their model, essentially. Their curve calcs no longer work in that scenario.
Exactly. They work out quite nicely now while they ignore perspective. So what do you think is going to happen if they took perspective into account? The fact that objects get smaller at distance to your perception. Well, that's going to screw them completely, because they've got a bulge in the way. So it's not just them getting smaller, it's them getting smaller, going over a curve, and being obstructed by a bulge, which is significantly larger by virtue of perspective, because it's in the foreground.
Speaking of perspective, did you see Taboo Conspiracy's upload of the gentleman's video?
I thought it was his own. Do you mean with the coins?
With the coins, yeah. I'm not sure. It might be his own. I think somebody else did it, though. He actually got it extremely level.
Yeah, just detail what he was doing, if you would, Ranty.
So he had his camera set up, looking at what would be I think it was a metal desk, and he put some coins on this desk, facing the camera, and then he moved the coins away, and as he moved them, slid them back, they disappeared from the bottom up. And then when he zoomed back into them and zoomed in on them, he brought the whole of the coin back.
Yeah, brilliant video.
Fantastic video.
But that takes me back to Good Times for All's videos when he was in the warehouses. Do you remember them, Nathan?
Yeah, I mirrored that. So with the paint cans.
Yeah. What that guy's demonstrated is the same point that Zach did at Good Times for All. Might be worth showing both videos and comparing them to show that they're both getting the same effect. Same effect by doing a very similar experiment to each other. Although I think that he's going to get criticisms on the table one, because they'll argue that the table wasn't perpendicular to the camera lens. They'll say that it was tilted away. Without proving that it was, how could we agree that it was or it wasn't? That's the only downside.
Which one? The latest video?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Because, and I'll tell you for why. Because he turned the coins flat, and he zoomed in and he caught them. You could see them flat, and half of them were obscured and half of them were visible.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how level he had it. It was incredibly accurate.
Is it worth playing this video, Nath? Because it is stunning.
Yeah. So this is Taboo's video.
Yes.
No. Taboo shared it from someone's. I'm not sure whose it was.
I haven't got any permission to do it, so probably not. Just in case. If it's not Taboo's video, because Taboo's are friendly, I don't know who he's asked for permission, and they might not want to give it me. So
let's see.
Okay, well, perhaps you could share me in a moment, and I'll show you some video that I did today.
Yeah, no worries. Let me know when you're ready.
The weather was crap again. It has been now for the last, I'd say probably week and a half or so. But I caught another boat. You want to tell me when I'm sharing?
You are?
Okay. I've been following this boat. It's already at 1:13, but something interesting happens in a minute. You're going to love this, Nathan. You haven't seen this. So I'm just going to put it back a bit. So I'm going to play the video now. And obviously we've got a real horizon and a fake horizon. Now,
Yeah, it looks like the boat's upside down, right? Fata Morgana Mirage, that is, right?
it is. And here we have the Stena Hibernia,
Your favourite boat?
my favourite boat.
Bloody hell. I was expecting that to pass in front of it.
Whoa, what happened there? Whoa. That was crazy. Wow, look at that writing underneath it. Wow. What a
Just play it
catch.
back again.
That's cool. I wasn't
Hang on
expecting
a
that at all.
Right, does the boat pass in front or behind?
Behind it.
How does the reflection of the Stena boat appear in front of the boat? Because the boat below is lower, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the top of those letters.
Right, hang on a minute. Look at that.
What?
Rewind that. Can you play it slower?
I don't think there's an option to play it slower.
Look at the word Stena line and look at the reflection underneath, right? The mirage underneath. Watch how that interacts with the boat that's underneath it. Now, in this process here, you can see that the reflection is passing underneath.
Yep. It supersedes the reflection of the boat in front.
I think
How
you
the hell
faked
can that
it.
even happen on a ball? Because on a ball,
Just CGI. You should make it up on your own too.
how is that explained on a ball, gentlemen?
Hey, Karen. Is that really you?
Yes, it's really me.
Good to have you.
Morning.
Good morning.
So I'll play
Oh.
this just now, and then I'm going to show you. Is this feeding through to you where it's got like a fuzziness going on the camera?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's fine. It's good enough.
That's
Really
incredible. That.
Well, what I did then is I thought, well, okay then, let's have a look at where are we? Did it Stena 1, right? So I took a screen grab of the boat on a different video, and I got it perpendicular to the camera. I then found an image of the same boat. This was before it was bought by the Stena line. I can show you that actually on where are we?
That might be worth a little bit of explanation. So you just said before it was bought by Stena, so it's the same boat.
Yeah, so it's the same boat. So if you go to like Marine Traffic, which is on here, marinetraffic.com, you can actually search for the Stena Hibernia. If I hover over this image, this is a list of images at the bottom. The Stena Hibernia here. So it's before it's all painted and has the word Stena line written on it. So it's its previous owners essentially. So as you can see, it is the same vessel. We've got this orange thing here, the same design. Everything's it's identical. It is the same boat, completely the same boat. So I scaled it to size, and I managed to capture. I got this image because it was the one that had it perpendicular to the camera of this gentleman that took it. And then what I did is I put some lines across each to show where they all match up. And essentially what that meant was where this boat was now cresting the water here on this image from marinetraffic.com, when I compared it to the image, the video that I took today, where is it? Don't seem to have it. What a surprise. Stena 1, 2, 3. So where's the fourth one? No, that's not it. Had it already, Nathan. Would you believe it? Stena 4. There we go. So yeah, so here's the line. And what do you know? The line goes right through that line, that refraction line. So essentially the boat is actually cresting through the refraction line. That is where the real horizon is. Where the fake horizon is where Rumpus came in and he said, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine. We can use this, what we would expect to be the assumed horizon or what have you, and we can use that to calculate using a theodolite." Well, no, you can't, because if you use this line down here where my cursor is, yeah, which you would say would be the horizon, you would actually be lowering the camera, essentially giving you your R value. So you would eventually come round and back on yourself because you're dipping the camera. The real horizon is higher than the perceived horizon. It's much higher than the perceived horizon. So that negligible that Rumpus used and saying that it was good enough, it isn't good enough, because this degree of difference here between this line and the perceived horizon is massive.
It is, and the more you zoomed in, the more it's an issue, because he says it's close enough. It's close enough. Well, no, it isn't, because when you zoom in on that big, massive different distance, whatever that distance is, every pixel counts because the accuracy is getting more and more precise. But to misrepresent that the way he does is just disingenuous, and he knows it is.
Well, you're right about the pixels, because absolutely what you're seeing at a distance is compressed. It's suffering the effects of perspective. Therefore, a pixel in the distance represents a much larger scale of land, or water in this case, than a pixel in the near foreground.
So yeah, that's what I found out today.
Okay, so this is why I joined you guys, because I was watching this, and when that other boat came into the picture and you saw the reflection from the boat behind it on the boat in front of the boat that's in front of the boat that's showing the reflection. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty concise, actually.
Okay. See, I've been thinking about this for a while, because I have that one sunrise video that I recorded a year ago. And I was talking to some of the guys in FECOR. We were discussing refraction and light rays and blah, blah, blah. And I said to this one guy, I said, well, I was watching my sunrise video, and I think that what we see first is the reflection of the sun. Like, you see the reflection first, and then you see the sun. So when you see that writing on the boat, that reflection of that boat is in front of, from your perspective, it's in front of the boat, right? So
Yeah.
you're seeing the reflection first, and then you see the actual object that's reflecting.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
But this picture really made me it kind of confirmed in my mind that what I think we're seeing with the sunrise, because there's another guy who uses a program to, like, sort of model these sun rays and how they reflect around and how it works. And at first, when I told him I thought you see the reflection of the sun first, he didn't agree with me. He's like, no, you just see in the very top of it. I was like, oh no, I really think it's the reflection. And he was like, oh no. And he was pretty sure. And then he came back a day later and he's like, I think you're right. I think we do see the reflection first. Because in my video, it's like you just see the sun start to appear. It just sort of renders in a little squashed oval shape right above where you think the water is. And then it starts to get bigger and bigger. And then, you start to see that sort of mushroom cloud start to appear. And then you're seeing the real disk of the sun. But what you see first is the reflection off of that zone, that nude zone, the non-uniform density transition zone, that layer there,
And when
that
you can't call
distorted layer.
that's your phrase. You need to call it what we call it.
What is it? What do you call it?
Dirty air.
Dirty air. Yeah, the dirty air. But when something is so far away from you, even though the sun is always above, we all know the sun is always above the plane of the earth. But when it first starts to come into view, what you see first is the reflection of it. That distorted reflection, that's what's hitting your eye first. And then as it gets closer to you, then your eye can make contact with the actual disk of the sun.
Oh, right. So I did a video recently as well of a sunrise, spring sunrise, and some troll came along and said, look, he's proved this nonsense about the clouds in front and behind of the sun, because my sunrise was in front of the trees in the near foreground. But that now makes sense why.
Mm-hmm. And then when I was driving on the road, I was looking at the miraging that happens when you're driving on long straight roads, right? Well, the cars come towards you, and then you see the reflection of the car in the miraging on the road, but it's always in front of the car. So even then, you're seeing the reflection in front of the actual object. So the light is like bouncing off of that dirty air and coming to your eye first, and then as it gets closer, then you sort of resolve the real object separate from the mirage.
Do you know what that layer is that whatever the term was that you used and we call it dirty air? It does actually have a name in science. Do you know what the word is?
I think you told me they call it the atmospheric duct.
It seems to be either the atmospheric ducting or the circle of confusion. But when you look at the circle of confusion, it makes it sound like it's referring to a point rather than the whole horizon. So I'm not sure that the circle of confusion relates to the whole horizon. But atmospheric ducting is the term that they describe it, and they describe it as like a tunnel that you're looking down, and the light's bouncing off it and maintaining the curvature of the Earth with it as it bounces its way around in its very own unique little duct. But what they're doing is they're making it from instead of it being a horizontal left to right band of dirty air or whatever it is, they're making it into like an observer specific on the z-axis. Your view is like a tunnel according to them, and they're saying it's a tunnel. But it makes absolutely no sense for it to be a tunnel. It has to be across the left and right, the way it seems. But they're making it out as though no, it's from the perspective of the observer, and what you're seeing is a duct. And it's like, don't be ridiculous. That is absurd. But that's what they're saying.
Well, I'm happy to upload it to my Google Drive, that video, and if you want a link to it to download it yourself, you're more than welcome. And I'll be putting it on my channel later as well. So
yeah, that would be cool.
All evidence for helping you with your theory about what happens with the sun.
That would be great. Thank you.
No worries. No worries.
Karen, do you believe, or do you have a view on whether the sun changes its angular size or not to the observer?
Well, I think that there's been some studies already that show that it does, just not very much. It does.
We have a pleb in chat right now called Milu, and he's shouting in capital letters, "Let's just ignore the fact that the sun doesn't change in angular size. It does, moron."
Yes, it
do very
does.
much, but it definitely does. Which is the point that we were trying to get to with Arwin the other day. Didn't really get there in the end, but it was a segue to introduce Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole as he joined, and it just didn't happen the way it was meant to happen because Arwin destroyed the point. But shout out to Arwin. But yeah, the sun does change its angular size, and the solar filter thing is basically when they said go and get your solar filter on it. What you need to do is get to elevation so that you get out of the dirtiest layer of air that's on the bottom. And when you get to an elevation and you look out from elevation, you can see that the sun clearly does dilate like a pupil in the eye.
Yeah. Chris Van Maitre made a great video about it. It's in the Globebusters 24/7 loop. But his video, if you go to his channel, he made a great video about it. He's very precise with it. He doesn't change the focal length or zoom length of any of the pictures. It's all the same focal length. So you can see very clearly that the sun does in fact change size.
Is it? Do you know what the name of the video is?
It's called "Does the Sun Change Size" or something like that. But let me. I can link it. I can go there and link it.
Oh, Karen B, is that you?
Oh, gee, yeah, that sure is me. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you. Your footage of the eclipse last August was really good. I really liked it.
Great.
That was a beast of a footage.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was good. He's okay, Hillel Finder, Karen. He's not a complete. He's not a complete moron.
No, I'm completely serious. It's good.
He is a moron, but he's not a complete and retarded moron. He's
Come
okay.
on, no need.
You never know.
Hey, Jose, how you doing?
Yo.
Good to have
I
you.
just sit right here.
Cool, man. Sorry, what was that? Jose came in and said something with a load of static in the background, so I didn't catch what Karen said last.
He said he's just coming in to placeholder, I think.
Sure. Let's find Chris Van Matre's video. He's a friendly.
Hold on, I'm right here. I'll put it in the side chat.
Oh, I've got it. Does the sun change size?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find the relevant bit.
Are you aware about D Marble going up and trying to film the 24-hour sun?
Yeah. Actually, there's another flat earther who did a 24-hour live stream of the 24-hour sun. Did you guys see that?
I think
His name,
Nathan said
Yeah,
he had it on
Sergey.
it, hadn't he?
his
Sergey.
name's
Good guy.
Sergey.
Yeah.
Sergey Maltsov, I think is his name. But
Hey, Adam.
Hi,
Yeah,
Adam.
good guy. He
Hi,
did the.
Adam.
We met Sergey through the 24-hour sun tracking we did a year or two ago. I forget how long now, but yeah, he did showed us exactly that during that 24-hour sun tracking, and then subsequently gone out and got himself a 360-degree camera and filmed it, which was really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the more people that do this, the more we can ram it home.
Nathan, if you want to present my screen.
Yeah, sure.
So in Chris Van Metre's video, he's talking about how the sun does change its angular size, which of course most of us already know this, but nobody's ever documented it or presented it well enough, because every time it's done, they always say, solar filters, you're not accurate. So what he's doing is measuring it per pixel, and he's showing the actual sizes of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, he basically shows it at 1 point, so 574 by 560. I hope I get this right while I do it on the fly. And now it's hanging. 575. I'm doing this kind of like rough. I think this might be the other part of it.
To be honest, I've stuck the link in the chat for anybody who wants to assess it that claims that it's not changing in angular size. I was called out on this by a glober, so I asserted exactly that, that it didn't change. And then Curved Water, to his credit, was like, yeah, it does. And then I had to go and look it up and confirm it, and I was like, bugger, he's right.
Well, I've never really had a view on it, because I didn't really see it as a ball crushing or a ball supporting point anyway.
Me neither.
Whatever the sun is.
But it is just a matter of fact, though. You know, the sun does change in angular size. That's just a fact.
I do remember Thingy spending a lot of time on this. What's his name? Wolfie6020. And when he did it, all the ballers started worshipping him like he's become the new messiah. And I was like, dude, there's enough evidence out there that shows that this is not true.
Yeah, it's not true. And conditions make a difference as usual.
Yeah, and the amount of haze on the day, the lens, the atmosphere acts as a lens, and it does change the apparent size of the sun, regardless of whether it physically changes or not. We also see that the sun gets a lot bigger as it gets towards the horizon, and it should be getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but it does appear to get bigger and then get smaller as it dilates away at the last moment. And that was what Deep Inside the Rabbit's old video was showing, that the sun set, but didn't set the way that we'd expect it to. He showed it setting that it set above the horizon, but dilated to nothing, which is not the official position. It obviously drops behind the curve of the Earth. That's not what Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole showed. But we never really got that segue sorted, so I don't want to go back over it now because it's a bitter pill to swallow. So, with regards to the idea that the sun does or does not change its angular size, Milo, it's pretty clear to see that there is enough evidence, and this isn't just the only guy that's done it. There's loads of people that have done this now since this became an issue about 18 months ago before you were on the scene. The sun does change its angular size. Or at least appear to.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of redundant. Angular size appears to. 6 of one and a half dozen of the other, really, isn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it proves anything one way or the other. I don't think it proves or disproves ball or sphere, because whatever the sun is, I'm not even convinced it's a physical ball. It might be, but I think it's more likely to be a concentration focal point of light, like a magnifying glass. That's what I think it is. Hillel, what do you think? Have you got any evidence that the sun's a real ball of hydrogen, helium fused?
Oh, I haven't really gone into that so much. Mainly, I did, for the eclipse last year, I did get a solar filter. But aside from that, and I did look to see if it changed angular size, and I didn't see anything. I didn't do any pixel counting, but it didn't, do like 8 to 10 times or something like that. Nothing absurd. But that's about as far as I went with it.
Well, maybe if you got a solar filter.
Right now, I'm actually waiting for another solar filter for my P900.
So maybe with a P900 and a solar filter, maybe you could do this from a baller's perspective and show that it does not change size. Because we have.
Well, I think I might do, but I also don't want to. I also know that other people have done that exact thing before. Like, for example, the first one that comes to mind is Red's Rhetoric. He did, I think it was every half hour, an image of the sun with a P900 and a solar filter. And I don't remember if he did pixel counting, but I remember, like I said, it wasn't something absurd like 5 to 10 times. It might have been like a couple pixels, but
And did he show that he didn't change focal length ever when he was taking those pictures?
The P900, he put the P900 at full optical each time, which puts the sun at fills around half the frame, because it's because at full zoom the P900 has about a 1 degree field of view, and the sun's obviously half a degree.
Right. So if it's so, I'm assuming his conclusion was that the sun did not change its angular size.
At very least, not appreciably, which means like not a lot. I'm pretty sure his conclusion was that it doesn't change angular size, at least not in a single day, because over 6 months the sun will change in angular size, but only by like arc minutes, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's because of the orbit of the Earth, right?
That's right.
Well, maybe as a baller with a P900
sorry,
and a solar filter,
second,
you can go out there
I'm
and
just
put
a
it
bit
to bed.
unclear.
You can go,
Sorry,
right, I'm going to
Anthony.
do this
Sorry to interrupt.
accurately and see.
Anthony, sorry to interrupt. Just want to get a bit of clarity from Hillel. So you're simultaneously saying that Red Rhetoric video proves it doesn't change, but it does change. That's
it
what you've
doesn't
just
change
said.
in a single day versus over the course of 6 months.
But
So when is the angular size bigger on the sun, during summer or winter?
During aphelion versus perihelion. When it's basically when the sun is at when the Earth is at its closest point to the sun versus its furthest point.
But just to be clear, it does change angular size.
Yeah, if you over the course of a year, it will change angular size.
I'm not giving any time. I'm not giving any time limits to it. I'm just stating it as fact. The sun does change angular size, correct?
Yes.
Excellent.
In fact, I think its aphelion is in, I think just about 2 weeks. So I think that's when, yeah.
Well, we've had the longest day now, haven't we? So we must.
Oh, just now, yeah.
So we look forward to your research then on the sun and the angular size and see your conclusions.
Yeah, maybe if I have my filter by then I'll just take a picture then, wait till perihelion, and then take another picture.
You wouldn't happen to have a link to Red Rhetoric's video, would you?
Not immediately. I mean, it's on YouTube, so I can go get it.
Or the title, if you know the title.
I think it's just, does the sun change angular size or something, straightforward.
So the sun should have a larger angular size right now as compared to 6 months from now?
I don't remember right now if it's at aphelion or perihelion, so it's either about to be at its smallest for the year or the largest for the year. I forget which one it is.
Because in the heliocentric model, they say that the sun is actually farther away during summer.
But yeah, it doesn't have any correlation to whether it's summer or winter. It's just where it happens to be in the orbit.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure, but I think what Karen's trying to ascertain is, does the angular size go up when the heliocentric model says the sun's further away? Did I lose the panel?
No.
Oh.
Am I here?
Yeah, we're all here.
So either Hillel's dropped or he's muted himself or whatever.
He says he's muted. He's muted.
Could you share my screen, Nath?
Doing a quick Google search. Maybe.
He must be looking on Red's channel.
You would expect a smaller angular size in our summer because that's when we're further away, aren't we?
In the heliocentric model, yes, we're further away from the
sun. Sorry, yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Right. Am I sharing, Nath?
You are.
Right. Awesome. Right. So we have a diagram here of the Earth's orbit around the sun, right? Now, as you can see, it gets rather close to the sun and then it goes a fair way away from the sun. Now, have you ever stuck your face next to a fire? Or held your hand next to a fire and then pulled away?
So you're saying its proximity should increase or decrease the heat it outputs? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if this is an accurate representation of the orbit of the sun, then if the Earth is this close at some point and then this far away at another point, then surely we should be going through incredible changes of heat and cold if we was really orbiting the sun. Because essentially it would be like putting your hand to the fire and then pulling it away, putting your hand to the fire and pulling it away. And we don't really see that on the Earth.
Shout out to M. Scott Veach, who still thinks that perspective doesn't apply on the curve calculator. Waiting for him to retract his words, the moron he is.
Well, hold on. That phraseology is correct. The curve calculator doesn't do perspective. So to say that the curve
it applies
calculator
to the hidden value. The perspective applies to the hidden value. So how them guys are applying it is wrong.
Sure.
He's maintaining that it's correct. No, Scott Veach, it's not correct. You guys need to account for, adjust for, and calculate for the effects on perspective before you apply your hidden value. Have you conceded your point yet? Probably not.
What do you think about this, Anthony? Or Hillel, what do you think of that?
1 second. First of all, there's Red's video.
Perfect.
in
Thank
the
you.
chat there. Second of all, about what you were saying, Renty, about the burning up and cooling off thing, it's
if we have
that's not the scale.
It's not to scale. What's the difference?
It's 3% difference.
Right. Do you not think
from 91 million to 95 million? So, but that's 3%. That's not the scale. That's just an exaggeration for illustrative purposes.
Okay. Well, you know global warming and the effects of global warming, and we're told that just a 3-degree change in temperature over 100 years would be catastrophic to the populations of all wild creatures and plants and stuff like this. Well, we're suffering this 3-degree change every year.
It's also, I suppose, supported with the premise of a Goldilocks zone. You're getting such a variation in there via the supposed model as well that kind of... It's also the contradiction. You've already got the straightforward distance contradiction, which you can negate not only with what you said there as a percentage value, but also via angular tilt. But conversely, in the southern hemisphere, you've got both of those negating factors reversed as an extra heating factor, and you don't necessarily see, particularly in Antarctica, that level of reverse mitigation in terms of it heating more.
No, and you would expect, as you know, it doesn't sound a lot, but 3 degrees is really a massive. It has a massive impact.
It does, if, like I say, if you believe in the theory of a Goldilocks zone, because the habitable zone is narrow, therefore distance is by definition important. So you can't then negate something 3%. That's it might be 3% of the orbit. What is it as a percentage of the Goldilocks zone? That's what I would suggest is if you're going to quote percentages, that's the more relevant statistic.
I just don't see how this works, but that's just me. I don't see how this could actually work and us have the existence that we have, which is relatively stable throughout the entire year. Anyway, just me. So are we doing this Resurrectrix video?
Well, I shared it in the chat just so people could see it. I wasn't necessarily planning on going through it on the show. I will have a look at it later, though. Just because it's interesting, you know, Red does a lot of observations. I haven't seen them all. I'm not a Red Tretric fan, but, you know, when something like this comes up on the show, why not? If he's done the observation, it's worth looking at, right?
Well, when I was on when I debated him on his channel, he told me about this, and of course, I said to him, well, essentially, I can't validate your work because I wasn't there, and I don't see what size your settings were on the camera and everything. You know, I don't know if I can take your word for what I'm seeing, and that's the trouble, isn't it?
It'd be nice if Eldis here can repeat the observations, and analyze it more detail also, because the repetition is what gives you better concise.
Hello?
Oh yeah, my signal is not too good. I'll just stay in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I had no reason to doubt what Reds was telling me, but you've always got to have it with an open mind. So he was showing me some images that he said that he'd taken with his P900 at max zoom. They all appeared to be the same size. Of course, I'd never seen his work before, so I didn't really know what to expect. So him asking my opinion on it, you really need to look in. I've not seen his video, so I can't really say. But even a small amount, if it was by pixels, like you were saying, Nathan, measuring to the pixel is far better than just comparing an image and saying they look the same.
I mean, the trouble is, though, again, you're thinking that in some way, even with solar filters, that you're seeing or measuring the sun, whatever model you want to adopt, it doesn't really matter in my book. I think what you're doing is seeing the resolution in the atmosphere of the sun's rays. I don't necessarily think you can extrapolate that you're measuring the sun.
I agree. I mean, the sunset here, the sun is ginormous.
Oh, what's going on? There's a bit of echo.
Is it Jose? You
Got your watch page on or something, Ranty?
Oh, right. Not me.
Iron Realm, I bet. I'm going to blame Adam anyway.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to get a good cheat. Unvalidated blaming. Thanks.
What were we talking about? Forgotten now.
My bad.
We're talking about. Well, we might be on for a topic change. I'd like to know what Hillel's views are with regards to the perspective claim that objects get smaller in the distance and it's not being taken into consideration by ballers when they're applying the hidden value.
Sure. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, actually.
Great. Nate, could you just present my screen?
Sure, no worries.
So, you see that you might have to click the thumbnail in the Hangout.
Oh dear. What is that?
This is the observer. It can be
No, but Anthony, I mean, why is there a series of slightly smaller mountains?
Well, are you a perspective denier?
Well, Anthony, is this an orthographic view?
This is an orthographic view.
Well, then you shouldn't have. Why do you have the mountain getting smaller?
Yeah, I need to clarify that with you, Anthony. By definition, sorry, Anthony.
That doesn't have. You don't do that in an orthographic view. An orthographic view is two-dimensional.
Sorry to interrupt you both. I just want to get Anthony to get clarity on this. So, orthographic excludes perspective. So, this is not an orthographic view. This is a mock-up of something. Not, I don't want to say erroneous, but it's just a mock-up of something that you're using to demonstrate your point. It's not an orthographic view of anything.
Okay, sure.
What I'm trying to do here is because the curvature calcs on Metabunk show a side profile view and it shows the hidden value, because it doesn't show what to do with the hidden value, and because we've only just kind of realized that this is wrong, we're saying that objects in distance get smaller the further away they get. So if you guys are going to apply the hidden value, let's just say 300 feet, then you've got to reduce the mountain that you're looking at in accordance with perspective, but you have to demonstrate it on the side profile that you guys are applying the hidden to, because that's the way the hidden value is presented. Why is it not being done, and why should it not be done if you're of the denier on the denier side?
Okay, first we should establish something. Does perspective change the actual size of an object?
We're not talking about actual sizes.
Well, if the hidden is an actual size.
Sorry, do you see the world in actual sizes?
The hidden is an actual size, but you're not seeing it at actual size.
Oh, I know. We're getting there. I'm just saying, so perspective doesn't actually change the size of objects, right?
No, you can't physically change the size of objects with perspective. It's down to your perception of that image that you see or take a picture of. and it includes perspective and angular size reduction. So when you talk about actual sizes of things, we're talking about angular sizes, not actual sizes. As soon as you put a feet and inches measure to anything, you're immediately into actual sizes, which is what we're getting away from, because that's not how we see the world.
Would you agree that the vertical lines on this picture are all the same size?
Sure.
Of course they're not. Are you nuts? Are you blind? Obviously they're getting smaller.
Well, you didn't clarify whether you meant actual size or apparent size.
Look at the picture. Are they smaller? That's what I asked. And you said,
They appear smaller,
no.
but they're all the same actual size.
No, they're not.
Well, hang on.
No,
This
it's
could
a
be a mountain
picture.
at 1,000
Hold on.
foot.
No, it's not getting. This is a picture that's been drawn by somebody, and the lines in the distance, if you're going to take it as being in the distance, in the centre of frame, are smaller. Don't tell me they've got an actual size. This is just a drawing. The lines in the middle are smaller than the ones on the outside. Correct or not?
Yes.
Excellent.
They were drawn smaller.
So let's just say that the size of the box in the very middle has a height of 1,000 feet. From there to there, you see my cursor, yeah?
Yes.
So if
So
there's
then
a
the
height
observer's
between...
at a height of about 500 feet then.
Well, let's just say that it's 1,000 foot for easy maths. What's
No.
on this bar
Right, no.
vertical
Let's
line
not.
here?
Let's not. We're not talking in feet and inches. The problem the Globers have got, Anthony... Hold on, Mike, it's climbing all over me. The problem they've got is as soon as you start talking in feet and inches, you're in absolute terms. And you can't quantify their calculation in a perspective manner. It can't be done. It only can deal in absolute terms. So when they say, well, our calculator isn't designed to do perspective, it isn't. Because what we're looking at is a relative term drawing. And the lines in the middle of the picture are smaller. So when they say, well, does it change its actual size? Who cares? The lines we see, if they're representative of anything, are smaller than the ones closer to us. But you don't take that into account. This is the photography angle. This does happen in every picture. So to tell me that the lines in the centre of frame are the same size is doublespeak.
Well, I think, hang on, let's clear this up.
Well, if you were to draw them in an orthographic view, you'd see that they were.
Correct.
Sorry, we don't take pictures in an orthographic view. We take them in a perspective view. That's our point.
So what we're trying to get at is if the mountains do get smaller to the observer because of perspective, when you guys apply the hidden value, you must reduce the height of the target in accordance with perspective because that's how we see our world. Nobody has ever produced evidence of a flat Earth and asked for criticism based on a side profile where the observer is not the camera. Everybody takes photographs like that, and that is perspective. However, there is no calculation for it after you get the hidden value, the absolute hidden value from Metabunk. So that means
I can't
that
jump down Hilal's throat and not jump down yours as well, Anthony. So sorry to interrupt, Anthony, but they don't have to reduce the height, because when you say the word height, it's got an implication attached to it, which is the feet and inches measurement. It's the angular size that reduces, and that's something that you can quantify in terms of perspective. Well, their calculator doesn't do angles. It does absolutes only.
I just wanted to concede that things get smaller in the distance and they're not accounting for it.
Sure, but when you say, it's just, I'd like to just get our terms nice and tied down at this early stage where we're saying the angular size reduces, because then it's quantifying it in terms of angles. And when we talk about how much is obstructed, at the bottom edge of the angle that you're drawing, going through perspective lines, we will have an intersection with the bulge much sooner than when you draw one line between target and observation. So it's important that people recognise that by drawing a single line and claiming it as the line of sight, you're negating perspective. And when you draw in two lines, one to the top of the target and one to the bottom, you can then compare how much of the bulge, which is in terms of perspective considerably closer, how much it will actually intersect with the target. And they can't do that because obviously it will intersect the bulge far quicker than the target. So they need to keep a straight single line of sight between target and observation. Without that, they have perspective in their maths, and they can't have perspective. It's the reason they've got curve. It's been engineered in through excluding perspective.
So, Hilal, do we agree that things do appear to get smaller to the observer, even though the absolute height is the same?
Yes, of course.
Do you agree that with regards to the Metabunk curve calculator, that when you get this refracted hidden value, this has no reference whatsoever to that perspective effect. It is an
No,
absolute
it didn't
term that
have
is
to.
denoted by the line. What was the answer then? I missed
Oh,
it.
sorry, I said it does not, but it also does not have to.
Really? Why doesn't it have to?
Because the hidden height, as well as the how to best put this, we agree the hidden height is it's not an apparent value, it's an actual value.
Correct.
I mean, that's the actual amount that is hidden. There's no perspective in there.
There's a bloody bulge in the way.
We're not. We're not talking about that at the moment.
Yeah, we are.
About
That's
hidden
the
height.
obstruction. What's
No,
causing your hidden exactly? Is it not
If
the
you're
bulge?
talking about
height.
hidden height, why is it hidden? It's hidden because
Yeah,
of the
No,
bulge.
it's
what's
hidden because
hiding
of the
it?
bulge, but that doesn't factor.
Right,
in.
so the bulge is hiding things. So the bulge is in the near foreground and absolutely has perspective applied to it. The only problem here is we don't see a bulge, do we?
Look, the hidden height is an actual value, and the height of whatever the target is.
Nothing is an actual value. We only see things in perspective view. There is no actual heights to anything, only relative heights with your targets. And in this instance, there's a bulge. And the relative height of that bulge, if you're asserting that something we can't see is closer to us, it becomes a target and is considerably larger because of perspective than the bloody target you're targeting.
It's not necessarily larger just because it's closer.
Yeah,
No.
that's what perspective does. Objects in the distance get smaller with distance. Objects in the near foreground, by virtue of the reverse, are larger than objects in the distance. That is perspective.
Okay, let's try something. If you have a building that's in front of you and it's let's just, for example, say it's 10,000 feet tall.
It's not, because we don't see a tape measure running down a building, we see things in perspective. So the second you attribute a feet and inches value, we have an absolute size, don't we?
Well, you have to calculate angular size using absolute.
No, we don't have to calculate anything. It comes part and parcel with the picture.
But you can. But do you know how to calculate angular size?
Sorry, now you're asking me whether I need to calculate it. It comes with the picture, and you, sir, need to calculate it. Why are you now asking me about how I calculate it?
No, I'm asking you if you know how. So I'm asking because we're going to be.
How is
talking
that
about...
relevant when we are not talking about a calculation that I am making? Why are you using the burden of proof reversal?
No, I'm just asking you if you
This
know or
is
not.
a
You can say
logical
no, and I'll
fallacy.
go.
Don't use the burden of proof reversal. We've got to the stage where you have conceded. We do not see things at relative sizes, i.e. feet and inches measures that you use. What we do see is relative sizes. Therefore, you must account for this. I don't need to know the calculation. I don't have a calculator.
So wait, are you saying, just to clarify, are you saying that if you have some object that is closer to you, it is necessarily going to be larger than any object in the distance?
Yeah, that's perspective. Are you really going to regress to the level of a 10-year-old that doesn't understand that if you put your thumb in front of your eyeball, you can block out your entire vision? Are you really going to regress this far? My God, the Globers have become utterly retarded.
Wait, you're saying any object that is closer to you is necessarily going to be larger than any object at any distance?
Yes, by virtue of perspective, you can literally block your entire view with your thumb.
It's getting confusing though, because like I went to go and get my lunch today, right? And the shop's at the end of the street. And I looked at it and I was thinking, there's just no way I'm going to fit through that door. It was so tiny. Right.
Yeah, you are about 6
I just turned round. They
Joking
obviously
aside,
didn't-
Hillel, are you actually this stupid? Don't laugh at me. Answer my question. You are asking me whether or not something in the near foreground can obscure something in the background. Are
No,
you really
I'm
this
asking you if you
stupid?
think any object in the foreground can obscure any object in the
Relative.
background, which is
Yes. So my thumb, if close enough to my eye, it can block everything.
well, I know it
Don't
can.
stutter. Acknowledge what I've just said because I'm describing something that a 10-year-old would understand.
I learned this is first grade.
Right. So don't ask me anything. Acknowledge what I have just said.
I couldn't hear what you said. Someone else was talking.
Objects in the near foreground, regardless of size, can obscure things in the background. Do you understand, yes or no?
Yes, of course it can, but you're saying it must.
I'm
No.
not saying it must. I haven't used the word must once. Why are you misrepresenting my position and using all of these fallacies on us when we are simply conceding that it is absolutely necessary to account for perspective?
I missed the first part of that.
Try and listen. It's necessary to account for perspective and you don't.
No, that wasn't a question. So
No, it's not a question. It's a statement. Yeah, I assert this over and over again to idiots who have used curve calculators incorrectly. So I will assert it again. Hopefully you will listen. We have a calculation offered to us as a proof, regardless of the fact that it is a begging the question fallacy and assumes its outcome. It also has a very large flaw in the mathematics. It engineers in curvature by excluding perspective.
and where would you want perspective in the calculation?
I don't care where you put perspective in your begging the question proof of nothing curve calculator.
Nathan, let me answer that specifically. Where we would want to see the perspective adjustment would be before the hidden value is applied.
So you would want an angular size before you can calculate for the angulars, because in order to calculate angular size, you need actual sizes.
We know actual sizes in almost all cases because we're applying the hidden to them.
Okay, so then you get the actual sizes first, and then calculate the perspective, and then you calculate the angular size from that, right?
Before you apply the hidden.
You don't calculate it from, you apply it to.
The hidden is an actual size, you're right.
And so you would have to calculate the angular size from that.
Before that, not from that, before that.
But you can't, but you just established, but it's an actual size. You need to calculate angular size from
Yeah,
that.
we get it. Your size calculator is an actual size only calculator to make it very difficult to engineer in perspective. I wonder why it's been done that way.
It's not difficult.
Well, then do it.
I already have.
Excellent.
But that's not what...
Let's have a look.
All right. Give me a moment. Where'd I put that? Now, this is an equation I worked out by myself, no help from Mick or anyone else, how to calculate the angular size of a target over a round Earth.
Sorry, we're not trying to calculate how to get the angular size. We're trying to apply it to your global mathematics. So we don't just need you to present how to calculate angular size here. We need to see you apply it. I just said this.
Well, you would apply it by first calculating it.
So have you also got your application of an angular size reduction at distance when comparing to the bulge in comparison to a photograph? Can you do that for us?
Not at the moment, but I'm actually working on that right now.
So what the hell are you going to present exactly? Just how to calculate angular size?
Yes.
So I was correct in my assertion about what your little ham-handed distraction would be, just showing us how to calculating it and not actually applying it.
You need to know how to calculate it first.
I don't give a crap what you think you need to know about perspective. I know it applies. Do you get it?
We don't need to know.
Do you get it? I know it applies. Do you understand that? Yes or no?
Yes, and Anthony...
So apply it! Don't tell me how to calculate it. Apply it, you idiot. I seem to remember the last time you were on this show, you seemed to say something similar about calculating out the observation on screen right now. Yeah? Have you done that?
Yeah.
And does it include an angular size reduction at distance?
It is angular size.
Sorry, does it include the application? This is the third time I've said this to you. Are you stupid or deaf? Repeat back to me. What I need to do is apply the angular size reduction to my curve calculations. Repeat that back to me or I'll kick you out.
You want me to repeat that word for word?
Yes, verbatim, so I understand that you understand, because so far you don't even understand that your thumb can obscure your vision.
You want to be able to calculate the angular size reduction of objects at a distance?
No! You genuinely are really getting on my nerves. I want you to apply. The word is apply, not calculate. Apply the angular size reduction at distance to your, substituted for my when repeating back, curve calculator that begs the question and proves nothing. You need to do this. What you need to do is apply it, not calculate it. Don't tell me that the first thing you need to do is calculate it, because I don't want to hear your pathetic, predictable response.
But you do agree that.
For the super chat.
Yeah, thanks, John. Much obliged. So, I'm waiting for you to repeat back what I have said to you about application of angular size reduction, so I understand what is required of you globe heads.
Yes, you want me to apply the angular size reduction.
What are you applying it to?
Objects at a distance?
No. You see, you are stupid. Yeah, I'll have to repeat it again. You need to apply an angular size reduction to your curve calculator. So far, 3 attempts for you to repeat this back to me. Unsuccessful. Take your time.
Is somebody feeding you in the background? Hello.
No, he's not repeating back to me what I've asked him to repeat, though. Is someone telling you not to?
Sorry, is someone feeding me?
Yeah, someone telling you not to answer me because you go very quiet. I've asked you now, I'll ask it for a 4th time. Right? I want you to repeat back to me so I understand that you understand that we are talking about an application of angular size reduction to your curve calculator. Calculations. Still not hearing it repeated back, Hillel.
Yeah, you're right.
What, I'm right that you're not repeating it back to me? Why would that be?
Yes, you're right that I'm not repeating it back.
Why not?
Because it's childish exercise.
Sorry, you think the application of perspective is childish?
No, I think you wanting me to repeat a sentence verbatim, otherwise...
Well, I asked you to do this, and then you told me that you were going to present how to calculate an angular size, rather than apply it.
I sent it to Anthony.
Yeah, you stutter. I want you to repeat it back so that I understand that you understand, and you're saying that's childish, when 4 times you have incorrectly repeated back to me, so you don't understand at present what is required of you. You currently represent all globe heads who have a fantasy delusion that they live on a sphere. So you aren't really you, Hillel. You just represent the other idiots out there that think they live on a sphere. Me demanding it of you is relevant of you. It's nothing personal. Yeah? You just represent Johnny Globehead. Okay. So you repeating it back, you represent that globeheads everywhere understand that you must apply the angular size reduction to your curve calculation because perspective is real.
Hello, can I ask you a question?
He hasn't repeated it back to me. If he doesn't repeat it back this time...
Yes, Nathan, you want me to apply the angular size reduction to the calculator?
Thank you.
To the hidden value.
What's the point of applying it to the hidden value? It's already hidden. You can't see it.
All right, sorry. Before you apply the hidden value, that's what I
can't do that either.
You need to apply the
But Anthony, I think this is what we were trying to get on earlier, which is that the hidden value is an absolute value, right?
Really? So the bulge, that's an absolute value. Is it the bulge?
Yeah.
Really? So the bulge doesn't have a perspective applied to it, but the target does?
It's both.
Sorry, both perspective applies and doesn't apply? That makes no sense.
No, there's an actual size and there's an angular size.
And which one would we be using in this instance?
You can use either one, depends on what you're doing.
No, we can only use the relative size because that's how we see things.
So
Hey,
you
did you
agree
see
then
me?
at
Did you see my
first you
camera?
would,
Really quick.
so you do agree though that you would have to use the regular, let's say, metabunk calculator first to get actual sizes, and then
No, you don't need to do anything, and I don't care what you do with your calculations that beg the question, assume R, and omit perspective. That's what you do with your calculation because this is your problem.
Hey, did you see my camera? Look, let's say this is the horizon, right? And this is me taking a picture. There's 3 poles the same size. I'm gonna see the same pole. I'm looking through a triangle. My eyes, I'm looking through the top and the bottom of the pole. This is the second pole I'm looking at. And this is the third pole, right? This is the perspective. Now, what they want to do in the curve calculator is this.
Correct.
The orthographic view. They want to just throw a line and line it up exactly. But this is what we have to do.
Right. So
This
why is it that Jose
This
gets
is what we have to do.
Jose
I'm
brilliant?
looking through a triangle. The first point is my eyes. I'm looking through the top and bottom. The second one appears smaller.
Yep.
We do a triangle. The third one appears a lot smaller. So we do the smaller triangle. Why they don't apply this system to the curve calculator? Because this is what appears to our eyes every single time.
Sorry, just before you go,
Why
Anthony,
is it
can I
that
just...
Jose gets this, but you don't?
Sorry, just
what he's
Jose, can
drawn
you put
there
your
is
diagram
wrong.
back on screen? I just want you to get you to do one more thing.
How is that wrong?
Sorry,
Your
just bear with me
vision-
before you
when
get
you
into
look
discussion.
at
I just
something,
want
you're
Jose to
looking
do
at
just
your
one more
own
thing. So,
perspective, and you can't put perspective into an orthographic view.
yes,
Yeah,
we
you can.
realise that. That's our point. That you've drawn an orthographic calculation that absolutely cannot work with perspective because the calculation's totally erroneous. It excludes perspective deliberately because that's where you've engineered in curvature. That's where you get the
You need to,
curve.
again, you need to calculate actual sizes first, and then calculate angular sizes from that.
No, you're not extracting out angular sizes. How many times have you got to obfuscate this point? Do you think we're stupid and don't understand what's happening? You're excluding perspective. We want you to include it. Not extract it from your fallacious calculations that assume R.
Oh, then you're really going to hate the equation I just gave to Anthony.
Oh, well, that's why we present it and then we scrutinise it. And when it has this flaw, which I've pointed out before you've even presented it, we will absolutely rip it a new one. No response, Hillel? So we've caught you out before you've even done the calculation by just having a little chat. This is what Red's Rhetoric doesn't understand. He has a little circle jerk playing with all his mates' willies in a closed hangout that nobody can join from the public. And yet, a little conversation with Hillel and we've quickly figured out what he's planning on doing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're not going to do is apply the angular size reduction to the targets, plural. That would be a bulge and something in the distance that we shouldn't see because of the massive bulge that will be there when you engineer in perspective to your calculations that ignore it. Yeah, we want you to do that.
He did get it, Nathan. He did get it because he said that
He
you can't...
repeated it back after 5 attempts and now he's telling me that he's going to extract out angular sizes.
Yeah, he's going to extract out. Yeah.
Yeah,
He did
so
get it, though.
we
He did
spotted
get
your
it.
little plan, Hillel. It's not going to work. You present it when you come next time and watch us all have a good laugh at you and point out that we've already told you this is wrong and why.
Nathan, let me just make this point.
Calculate actual sizes first, and then you can calculate angular sizes from the actual sizes.
We don't have any actual sizes in the photograph that we're comparing to. We start with a perspective view.
You start with numbers.
No, we start with a photograph.
You don't do any research before the photograph.
Don't need to, just press a shutter and magically a perspective appears in the shot.
Well,
it's amazing.
Just a picture.
Don't stutter. I take a picture and there's perspective, it magically appears. You don't account for it.
Well, if you just take a picture of anything, that's not going to prove anything.
No, it does prove that you don't include it, and now you're trying to extract it out from your calculation, rather than just seeing what's in the picture and its relative size, and then calculating that relative size versus your bulge that isn't there. No? No response again?
What?
Just a stutter. Excellent.
He's being
Perfect.
fed by Rumpus in the background.
I bet he
Nathan,
is.
he did get it. He
Yeah,
did.
On that
sure
note,
thing,
I
Anthony.
think you're right, because
He
he's stuttering
Nathan,
and stammering
Nathan.
and pausing for breath. I've held out long enough to figure out what he was going to do with his calculation. That's all I need to hear. I'm glad I kept the show running a bit longer, because if I'd have ended it on the hour mark when he's like, yeah, I've got a calculation. No, he hasn't. He's figured out how to work out perspective, so then he can just ignore it and move back to the calculation. Utter crap. You know, this is the kind of nonsense obfuscation and trickery that we are dealing with when we are dealing with magicians. All they do is trick people into thinking that there's curvature, trick people into thinking that there's a bulge, and none of it's true. All we are coping with and dealing with when we take a picture is perspective, something they absolutely and unequivocally ignore. And with that, I will say a first and foremost massive thank you. Let's just press a couple of buttons on my box. To all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you like the show, then maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. Bye-bye. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!